Today the trekkers are going to show you two natural wonders here in Virginia. But our first one is going to be the Natural Bridge. We've already been here, but we have something new.
Well, we made it back to the Natural Bridge. You might remember another podcast about the Natural Bridge. That's when Brad got stuck up there in the mountains. But we're here for another reason.
That's right, we're going to take you a little further on the path to show you a Monacan village because the Monacan Indians used to live here.
So let's go down a little ways and check it out.
Come on, Pop. I don't think our first video here was in HD, so let me just show you how big this is on our HD camera.
Alright, so Dave and I have climbed up the mountain that we did in our earlier podcast. We don't have Frank or Brad, which is kind of a good thing, because now we don't have to spend time trying to get Brad down.
That's right. But George Washington, he used to climb these rocks as well, and he engraved his name on the other side that we can't get to because of the river. I'm not sure how George Washington did it, but he was just an amazing person.
It was also said that he was able to take a stone and throw it over the top of the bridge, back down to the other side. We're going to see if we can do that.
He had an awesome throw. If you remember from our Fredericksburg podcast, I talked about how he could throw the stone across the Rappahannock River. So he had a good throw. So right up there, the little square that Alfonso could zoom in on in a second, that's where George Washington carved his name in the rocks. Well, they think he did.
All right, boys and girls, I've put on my jacket and my hat because it's getting a little bit cold out here. The weather is very, very cold. Speaking of weather, or weathering, second grade especially, remember, weathering is the breaking down of rocks. And that's pretty much how this was formed. You can go back to our other Natural Bridge podcast to see exactly how that process takes place. And we have erosion taking place where we have the stream going. It's taking little particles of rocks, moving it from one area to another area. That is erosion.
Well, enough about all that. The real reason we came to the Natural Bridge was to go see the Monacan village. So let's take you up there.
So here we are in a small Monacan village. This is a replica of what a Monacan village would have looked like about 300 years ago.
And we've taught you all about the Powhatan Indians because they lived in the coastal plain region with Jamestown and all that, and they spoke the Algonquian language. Well, out here in this region, in the Piedmont, the Appalachian Plateau region, lived the Monacan Indians, who spoke a Siouan language. And you can see that their houses, though, kind of look like the Powhatan houses. They were called wigwams, or ati, I think I'm pronouncing that right, and they were made, as you can see, of wood, reeds, the things that they found around them. So they would build a wall around their village out of twigs, as you can see, and they just weaved the branches in between. It was called a palisade. I hope I'm pronouncing that right too. I have some pronunciation problems, but I believe that's what it's called.
Well, here's a little structure. Even though we're here in the middle of winter, the area around me is kind of plowed, and so when spring comes, they're going to start doing some planting. Because remember, the Monacan Indians also grew their food, but what the structure was the children had a job. The children would stay up here and they would actually protect the food. They would scare away the birds or any other animals, and they would also stay up here probably making some jewelry and some things like that. To do their plowing, they used anything that was in the earth. So they used the stones and the wood to make their tools like we would have in our gardens.
Now we're going to head on over to our next natural wonder, but on the way we found two cool things that we wanted to show you. Now, one cool thing right outside the Natural Bridge is this zoo. It's something that we just discovered, and that's one of the cool things about traveling through Virginia. You just see cool things everywhere.
This particular area is a petting zoo. We see some baboons right across, and they're staring at me right now.
Unfortunately, we couldn't take you into the zoo because it was closed. But there's one more cool place that we want to show you.
Well, we made it to England, Dave.
Yeah!
Woo!
That was quite a trek. Actually, did you know that Virginia has its very own Stonehenge right by the Natural Bridge? Another cool site.
Only one little difference.
What?
It's made of foam.
Well, it's time to get back on the road and show you our next natural wonder, the Natural Tunnel in southwestern Virginia. This was our first time here and we were amazed at what we found. It's an 850-foot long tunnel going right through the rock, and it's as tall as a 10-story building. It's so large that it's used as a railroad tunnel. The first railroad was built in 1893, and trains carrying coal still go through this tunnel.
Well, it's really hard to tell because it's so dark in the background, but that is a natural tunnel, and it goes deep through the mountains. Trains are kind of like water. They travel through the least resistant, that kind of pathway. So the engineers thought that, hey, that's the best way to get through the mountains is to this tunnel that was dug out by the water.
And a lot of times when the trains want to get to a mountain, they have to use dynamite. Well, they didn't have to use any dynamite for this. The water did all the work for them. And it's amazing, we can't even see the other side. Remember the Natural Bridge? We can see the other side. This one's a lot deeper. So you can see all that water rushing behind me. That's what formed this natural tunnel. Just like the Natural Bridge we showed you, weathering and erosion eroded the limestone rock and made this beautiful formation.
David just panned from the top to the bottom. This is natural tunnel, but that was called Lover's Leap. The reason? Because we had a Cherokee maiden and a Shawnee warrior. Their tribes forbade them from marrying each other, so they were so distraught that they said they were going to be together. They went to the very tip top, the pinnacle of that mountain, and they jumped to their deaths. And now it's called Lover's Leap.
So Alfonso and I were standing way down there. Here you can see a little bit of a better view from up top. And now that the sun's gone down, the trekkers are going to head through a man-made tunnel to the other side where we'll spend the night.
Well, boys and girls, we've made it to our nest. Well, boys and girls, we've made it to our nest.
I'll say. And we have some baboons over here.
Did he just point at me? He meant over there.
Fonfie cut his hair just for this podcast, so we got to see it, right?
Ow! Yeah!
Well, the trekkers, we must have aged a lot in the 2 years since we've been here because the lady at the front desk, she didn't even recognize us.
She remembered that the trekkers had been here, and she said, well, the trekkers have been here already. And then she made us, well, actually, she made Dave show his ID.
Yeah, she said that the t-shirt, my picture on the t-shirt wasn't enough to prove that I am who I am. It kind of made me feel a little bit bad. But you know, the trekkers age just like everybody else. So probably by the time we visit your school, we're going to be 70 or something like that.
So boys and girls, make sure you get the strollers and the wheelchairs out for us.